Hey there everybody, Travis Bowman here. I'm a fingerstyle guitar player and retro video game nerd. Welcome to a brand new episode of Crazy Cool Controllers, a YouTube series where we take history's craziest and coolest controllers and do a video about it. This time we've got a combination of two really cool peripherals for the Sega Dreamcast. We're of course talking about the official Dreamcast keyboard and mouse. Back in 1999, the year 2000, this was a pretty big deal to have these two peripherals released for this system that had a built-in modem which allowed us to play games online and even browse the web back in those early days of the internet. This is not the first example of a keyboard and mouse for a home console, but it is one of the most iconic, at least in my eyes. The Dreamcast was Sega's last home console, and they tried to do a lot of different things to win people over to get them on Team Sega to avoid, the Sony PlayStation 2, the Microsoft Xbox, and the Nintendo GameCube. And one of the things they were really trying to push, along with the VMU as well as some other different peripherals, was the online capabilities of the Sega Dreamcast. Now, admittedly, not every game on this system is going to take advantage of the keyboard and mouse. It's a very, very specific thing, but still it's one of the most iconic things about the Sega Dreamcast in my opinion. Even so, when I look on the back of the box right here, they're really, really touting the online capabilities of your Sega Dreamcast. And one of the games on the back of this Dreamcast box that is featured so heavily is, of course, Phantasy Star Online. One of the best games on the entire system, in my opinion. And on the back of the game case here, you can see that it says one player, online multiplayer, VMU required to save your game. You can use a VGA box, you can use a keyboard, a jump pack, a modem, and the standard controller. So no mouse support for this guy. Unfortunately, you can't play the game keyboard and mouse and look around with the mouse with your character. That's not what this is for. The keyboard was meant to kind of be on your lap to communicate with other players, and that's a really, really cool thing about that Phantasy Star Online that you can still use today. That's right, Phantasy Star Online in 2025 and probably beyond. Later on, the servers are likely still going to be up, those private servers where you can still play this game online. On your Sega Dreamcast, you can link up with people that are playing on PC, as well as other people that are just playing on the Dreamcast too, which is a really, really, really cool thing that's still happening. So you can see in this footage that I'm using this keyboard to communicate with other people that I've never met in my entire life who are still playing Phantasy Star Online. It's one of the best MMOs ever made, the first console MMO actually, so that's another really unique thing that we got from Sega at the time, another innovative thing that unfortunately that potential just wasn't realized until much, much later. So we've got Phantasy Star Online, and that's great. If you want to learn more about this being an online game still today, you can check out the video and the link in the description below where you can find more information on that. But let's talk about some of the other games that can be used with the keyboard and especially the mouse for the Sega Dreamcast. Obviously, we've got some first-person shooters. I don't have all of them, but I have most of them here. So we've got a really, really popular title called Unreal Tournament, which is a first-person shooter that takes advantage of your keyboard and mouse. There's surprisingly a lot of customizable controls for this game on your Sega Dreamcast, which is really, really cool. Another one that is really popular and still online these days is Quake 3 Arena. I don't have a physical copy of that one currently, unfortunately. And most recently, Outrigger. This is a Sega Dreamcast exclusive. This is one of the craziest, most unique first-person shooters on the Sega Dreamcast, and in my opinion, from that era of video gaming in general. But this is basically Sega's answer to all of those really popular online first-person shooters of that era. The reason that I really want to mention this guy right here is because as of the making of this video a few weeks ago, this game got added to the list of Sega Dreamcast games that you can continue to play online. So yeah, I tried it out. It wasn't bad, but I don't know if it was a connection issue or what, but I was experiencing a lot of lag. So unfortunately, it's not as exciting as Phantasy Star Online as far as the playability as of the making of this video. And again, this is just from my experience. I don't know if I was just connected to a bad server, and I didn't make my own game. I connected to somebody else, and I asked them what they were playing on, and everybody said the Dream Pi. Now, if you're unfamiliar with what that is, that's basically a Raspberry Pi computer that's been configured to be used with the Sega Dreamcast. Basically, it's the middleman between the 56K modem that's built into the system to whatever home network that you have, whether it's broadband, Ethernet, or over Wi-Fi. It's a really cool device that is not readily available all the time, but if you keep your eyes open, you can grab one. I'm glad that I got mine a long time ago. We have to mention the Dreamcast web browser with SegaNet. On the back of this, it says optimized for SegaNet. Get exclusive access to VMU files, movies, and more. Explore the World Wide Web. Send and receive email and chat with people all around the world. So that's really, really cool, man. This had its own web browser software back in the day, and I just love when you open this up, you see the disc and the manual perfectly. That square manual fits in that Dreamcast console. It's just so freaking iconic, man. This is by far one of the cheaper Dreamcast games out there these days, but still, it's still a really cool piece of gaming history, and a lot of people grab these and sacrifice them for their game cases to put actual Dreamcast games in that are a little more desirable, because these things are so common. They were pretty much packed in with every Dreamcast system. But let's talk about the mouse for just a second too. You see the keyboard a lot more than you see the mouse these days. I used to have it complete in box, but I don't remember what happened to my box. I guess when I moved a long time ago, I kind of lost it. But this is a surprisingly really modern-ish mouse for the time. Yeah, it's still a ball mouse. You've got the ball inside there that needs to be cleaned every once in a while and everything. But what I'm getting at is that you've got your left mouse and your right mouse, your wheel there, and you've also got the button on the side, which is really cool for some of those first-person shooters. If you want to change your weapon or something, or use a secondary weapon or whatever, you can use that mouse button for your thumb over there on the side. So you're seeing in this footage that I played a ton of these first-person shooter games for the Sega Dreamcast with the keyboard and mouse. That's exactly what you're seeing here. I'm playing those games with these peripherals hooked up. And it's a really, really fun experience. Admittedly, not everybody's going to see a lot of value in it because, you know, we've come such a long way with video games with the keyboard and mouse. You know, we've got several of the new Doom games that obviously will just blow these out of the water as far as their controls and everything, but it does not mean by any circumstances that these games on the Dreamcast are outdated. I mean, obviously they're going to be a little less impressive graphically, but they're still first-person shooters and they're great, man. If you enjoy the original Doom that came out all the way back in the 90s, then there's a lot of value to be had in these games. It's just, people don't really think about hooking up this kind of stuff on a console. It's just so much easier to play on your PC, but it still can be done. In fact, the biggest qualm about, you know, hooking all this stuff up is having to deal with all the wires and stuff. Not everybody's Dreamcast is going to be in a situation in their house where it's easy to connect it to your console and play comfortably. You can still get these third-party extension cables. This is from a brand called McBasil. I think I got this on Amazon. It's a 2-pack that are 6 feet long each. It was like $10 or less, something like that. It's really not that bad. If you really want to connect this stuff up and give it a go, I would highly recommend that you look into some of those third-party extender cables. I actually had a really good time playing some of these first-person shooters. It was actually a lot of fun, and I wouldn't want to do this all the time, but it's kind of a novelty now, and it was a lot of fun to really test out some of these games, especially Outrigger, a game that I hadn't really played online before back in the day, but now it's easy to do these days if you have a way to hook your Dreamcast up to the internet. One thing that I should mention about the keyboard and mouse is Half-Life. Half-Life was kind of planned for the Dreamcast, but it never came out officially. That is obviously a game that you would want to use with the keyboard and mouse, but unfortunately I was not able to get it to work with the keyboard and mouse. I don't know if it's just me, if I screwed it up. Maybe you can let me know in the comments section below if you have more information about support for Half-Life on the Sega Dreamcast. Even today, you know, it's still cool to check it out, but it's by far one of the worst ways to play that game just because of the loading times on the Dreamcast. I'm pretty sure the port on the PS2 was a little bit better as far as loading times, but you know how that game goes. You go into a room and then you have to wait for that room to load, and it's so much better on PC, obviously, but it's still cool that we got that for the Dreamcast at all. One other thing that I wanted to talk about regarding the keyboard and the mouse, well, not so much the mouse, but the keyboard. There is a game for the Sega Dreamcast. I'm pretty sure it got released on PC too back in the day. It's called The Typing of the Dead. Now, if you're unfamiliar with what that means, there was a light gun game for the Sega Dreamcast called The House of the Dead. It's actually a Sega Saturn game. That's where it got its start. And it's been in arcades and stuff too, and there's been several iterations since the second game on the Sega Dreamcast. But somebody had the bright idea to take the Dreamcast keyboard, which probably didn't have that many titles that could take advantage of it at the time, and they said, why don't we take that light gun game, get rid of the guns entirely, and instead of using the guns to shoot the zombies in this game, we will take the keyboard and have you type words and even sentences to destroy the zombies. And that, my friends, is how I got so good at typing. You know, I had a class in high school that taught me how to type and everything, and that was great. But typing of the dead. I mean, I remember playing this when I used to burn Dreamcast games back in middle school, you know. You couldn't go out and buy games at the store anymore. And being that young, I didn't have the advantages of getting on eBay or going out to retro video game stores as much to grab some used Dreamcast games. So I used to burn them onto CDRs like I'm sure most of you did. That's how I got so good at typing. I'm really good at typing, man. I can type super fast. And it's because of this game, this Typing of the Dead, that makes you so stressed out about getting those words out as fast as possible. You can't really get too far in the game unless you are really adept at typing. You know, you have to form sentences, and there's even punctuation and stuff in there too. It's a really, really unique game, one of the coolest games that I've ever played. And I have really great memories of me and my mom playing that too, because she wasn't that great at video games, didn't like them that much, but she enjoyed doing, you know, Typing of the Dead because it's different. It's a unique experience, and that's one of the great things about the Sega Dreamcast is we got all this really cool stuff, this third-party stuff from Sega to use with their system, and that's what I remember it for. You know, I've done several videos on the Dreamcast peripheral stuff now. You know, I've done third-party controllers as well as some of the first-party ones, like the fishing rod controller. Now, as far as the web browser goes, you won't be able to do much with it, but you can still visit, you know, websites like Google and stuff like that. YouTube is not really working that well. There aren't a lot of websites that you can visit, like Facebook and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure that doesn't work, but it's still pretty cool to kind of go back and at least try to look at some websites that we used to check out back in the day. I really do love the Dreamcast keyboard and mouse. It's a really cool set of peripherals that are kind of unique to the time, but it really reminded me of how great the Sega Dreamcast is and all the options that they gave us. You know, this was not just a first-person shooter console. It was not just an MMO console or a fighting game console. You have options with the Sega Dreamcast, my friends, and this is just another peripheral that shows you that fact. So I'd be really curious to know what you guys think about the Sega Dreamcast keyboard and mouse. Let me know if you've ever used one in the comments section below. What games did I not mention that are compatible with the Sega Dreamcast keyboard and mouse? And I'll put a link in the description where you can learn more about those compatible games if you're interested in that as well. Thank you so much for checking out this series. I really appreciate you guys watching that, and thank you for subscribing, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Can you say bye-bye? Can you say Macau? Yeah, that's good. Thank you, buddy. You're a good boy. Thank you.